It's time to use the script. Oh, okay. Got it. Thank you.
Olivia Wilde had an extremely private moment blasted out into the public in an embarrassing moment that I doubt went over well once it was all over. Amid her divorce with Jason Sudeikis, Olivia made sure to keep as much composure as she could when she was served custody papers by an employee of the process server committee while she was on stage at the CinemaCon Premiere of her new film Don't Worry Darling. Although Jason claimed that he had no knowledge that she would be served while she was literally on stage presenting her film, many critics don't buy it. Today we're covering Olivia Wilde. Tomorrow though, you decide. Let us know in the comments down below who you think we should cover on the next episode of Where Are They Now. While you're there, it would be great if you could like this video so we know to keep making more similar to this one. Let's get into it. Olivia Wilde was born in New York City, although she would grow up in a quiet neighborhood in Washington, D.C. and would spend her summers in Ireland. She grew up upper middle class and went to a private school and then a boarding school before graduating in 2004. Interestingly, her real name is Olivia Jane Cockburn, but because her parents are prevalent writers, she changed it to Olivia Wilde in homage to the Irish author Oscar Wilde, also to honor the other writers in her family, many of whom used pen names. Her parents are Leslie Cockburn and Andrew Cockburn. Leslie is a producer on 60 Minutes and a journalist, while her father is also a journalist and the son of a British novelist, Claude Cockburn. Olivia also comes from an extremely wealthy lineage, including Scottish ancestors that lived in many locations at the height of the British Empire, namely lawyers, landlords, and political figures. As for Olivia, she wanted to be an actress so badly that she deferred college 3 times in order to continue pursuing roles. She first began on a short-lived television show before moving on to the extremely successful The O.C., a 90s teen drama. She was also in a bunch of other movies in the mid-2000s and became kind of an it girl. She also notably appeared on the medical television drama House, wherein she played Remy, a young girl with Huntington disease and not a rat that teaches you how to cook. She stayed on House for 4 years before stepping down to pursue her film career in place of television. And she did just that, starring in a couple mediocre movies you might know, but really I feel like she's more interesting as a director. Much like Sofia Coppola and Greta Gerwig, all women who were once actors and then transitioned into filmmakers, Olivia Wilde is much better suited, in my opinion, as a storyteller. As she entered into around 2013, Olivia began peeking behind the camera more and more. While she was still very much an actress, she started to produce documentaries like The Fabulous, The Rider, and The Storm, documenting the life of an individual who lost everything during Hurricane Sandy. She also produced the documentary Body Teen 12, which follows the height of the Ebola outbreak, which went on to win Best Documentary Short at the 2015 Tribeca Film Festival, as well as being nominated for Best Documentary at the Oscars. She also branched out into directing music videos for bands like Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And now, finally, in 2019, Olivia has fully embraced the role of director, which, in my opinion, is her rightful place, especially given her lineage. She made her directing debut with the film Booksmart, which I recommend every young girl watch. It's a bit cringy in the dated political references, and I personally feel that someone as smart as the character of Molly would absolutely not be a Hillary Clinton supporter, but I guess you can't have a socialist as a main character yet. By the way, I have an extreme passion for movies, so please, if you guys want to put in the comments how much you want like movie corner or something, please do so my boss sees it, because oh man, I just can't shut up about film. Anyways, so she directed Booksmart, which is super cute and fun, and much like The Edge of 17 in that it's a teen comedy that really focuses on how not graceful growing into a woman is. The movie got a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the Washington Post stated, quote, "As the film progresses, Wilde's filmmaking skills become more and more evident, bursting forth in the third act that builds into something beautiful and even transcendent." She also directed the movie Wake Up, the short film. I haven't seen it, but it's on my watch list. And now she's just finished directing and starring in Don't Worry Darling alongside England's sweetheart Harry Styles. It's a psychological thriller about a 1950s housewife starring one of my favorite actors right now, Florence Pugh. The movie is set to come out in September, and so Wilde has just begun to promote it at film festivals and allowed early screenings at conventions. And now that's where our story takes us to the present drama that really is so embarrassing for Olivia. While Olivia Wilde had been married before, at 19 years old, to an Italian filmmaker and aristocrat Tal Ruspoli, they divorced in 2011 after 8 years, citing irreconcilable differences. Olivia didn't seek spousal support, which I think is pretty cool of her given that she's already rich on her own and doesn't really need anything from her ex. Then, a few months after her divorce from Tal, how, Olivia began dating Jason Sudeikis in 2011 after they met on SNL. They got engaged 2 years later and had 2 kids, but they would never get married because 9 years later, in November 2020, they decided to separate. So now, Olivia and Jason are going through the legal process of divorce, which usually takes a year or 2, but they're officially separated. As she's going through the divorce, she started to date her coworker, Harry Styles, with whom she is inseparable with lately. Now, let's get into what happened a few days ago. Olivia Wilde was promoting her movie Don't Worry Darling at the CinemaCon Premiere, an early screening in Las Vegas. While she was on stage and speaking about how ecstatic she is about this film, about a minute or so into her speech, someone comes up to the stage and drops a manila folder at her feet. She pauses, asks if it's for her, and then picks it up. The folder is clearly labeled personal and confidential. She openly wonders if it was a script and playfully joked that she was going to open it right then and there to unpack the mystery, which she did. As soon as she saw the contents of the envelope, she simply said, quote, "Oh, okay, got it." And then, like an absolute freaking professional she is, she carries on like nothing happened. Although she held onto the envelope for the rest of the monologue, she eventually put it behind her back while continuing her speech before she finished and exited the stage. It was later revealed that the papers were custody documents from her ex, Jason. I can't imagine how humiliated she must have felt at that moment. Later on, Jason's management team stated, quote, "Papers were drawn up to establish jurisdiction relating to the children of Miss Wilde and Mr. Sudeikis. Mr. Sudeikis had no prior knowledge of the time or place that the envelope would have been delivered, as this would solely be up to the process service company involved, and he would never condone her being served in such an inappropriate manner." A lot of people call cap on that statement, however, and I do too, to be honest. How could it be possible that an A-list star would have no knowledge that the A-list mother of his children would be served paperwork in the middle of a highly publicized work event? It doesn't make any sense. A family law specialist chimed in on the subject and stated, quote, "This is highly unlikely. While an attorney is not required to consult with a client before deciding how and when to serve, it is routinely done in the field to avoid these kinds of appearance mistakes." He also added that while it is possible, it is by no means probable. Adding to the mystery, CinemaCon does not announce its lineup in advance, nor does Warner Brothers, the studio distributing Don't Worry Darling. That means members of the public would not have known that Wilde would be attending the convention, so the process server would have had to been given prior knowledge of Wilde's whereabouts in order to show up at the exact time of her presentation. Tickets for CinemaCon are upwards of $1,200. At that cost, would a process server really have paid their own way into the event without clearing it first? Additionally, the convention is not a fan event, but an industry event. You have to have special permission before even being allowed to buy a ticket. The attorney continued that the only reason someone would be served so publicly is, quote, "if the person had been evading service for some time, and this was the only way you could serve him or her." But we know that isn't the case, because Olivia and Harry Styles have been spotted on multiple occasions out in public together, and she even attended Coachella last month to watch him perform. Even if Jason did have no prior knowledge of how it would go down, he may face some repercussions in the divorce proceedings, as in divorce, judges pay special attention to how both parties treat each other and whether each parent supports the other parent in his or her role. Because their kids are elementary school age, they'll definitely hear about it in school from their friends and parents. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Where Are They Now? Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel so we can keep making more videos just like this one. Also comment if you want Movie Corner, I'm serious about that. I've been your host Sierra, see you guys next time.